So welcome once more, everyone, to another webcast of Alexandra Mayers Live. And once more, I am with Mr. Stephen Washington of
Hello.
the Black Wealth Network, bwnonline.com. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Alexandra. How are you? Especially being how close to what happened yesterday. I really feel for you guys.
Yeah, I haven't really been able to quite wrap my mind around it entirely. And for those of you who aren't aware, we're talking about the Parkland shooting. It happened about between 15 and 20 minutes from where I live. When I was in high school, we used to have a lot of away games, football games and basketball games and stuff over at their school. So, yeah, that was kind of weird. And I have a relative who goes to that school, but he is okay. So, since we talk about finance, let me ask you, when these mass shootings happen, is there like any sort of rise in stocks when it comes to weapons and guns?
Well, every time every time these mass shootings come up, there's an underlying gun control debate. The last time with Las Vegas, it was regarding the bump stocks. Remember, everybody found out you could make a semi-automatic into an automatic with a bump stock, which nobody heard of. And so they were supposed to ban bump stock, which never happened. But of course, bump stock sales shot through the roof because people figured they better go out and get bump stocks before they banned them. And of course, they never did. So a lot of times when there's gun control pressure, people buy more guns. It's almost like, well, you better go get your guns before they take our guns away type of reaction. But Remington, the pistol company, I believe, actually filed for bankruptcy a couple weeks ago before this. So
Really? Well, to me, that's very interesting. And I bet that there is some sort of a reason or correlation, because I think that there's synchronicity when it comes to everything. I think there's reasons for everything. But yeah, so that was on my mind. What do you want to talk about today? What's, because you're the expert. I never let anyone drive the car, but you can drive today. What's going on?
I do have a lesson prepared. I'm glad you asked, because I thought about what should we talk about. There's nothing major in financial news today other than sort of the same old thing that we talked about last time. Stock market sort of going up and down. You notice it's been back up now mostly, even though these inflation numbers came out that were really high. However, I do have a lesson for the day. I'm going to grab it here so that hopefully you can. I use this on the Twitter site as well. And this is called the future value formula. In fact, Albert Einstein, who is famous for the theory, the MC squared formula, said that he felt like this was the most powerful mathematical formula he had ever seen, because this is the key to wealth. And what the future value formula consists of, what it says is if you take a present amount of money and multiply it by 1 plus the rate of return or the interest rate to the n number of times, which is an exponent, it'll give you a future value. So it means, if I invest $1,000 at 6% for 20 years, what do I end up with? That's the formula that tells you that. And that's the math. And that's really the secret that's what compound interest is, interest on interest. And so, for example, when you buy stock and you get a dividend, there's what's called dividend reinvestment plans, meaning instead of you taking the cash dividend, which they pay you every 6 months, you have it rolled back into more stock. That way, over time, your stock is basically buying more stock for you. So you can imagine with $100 worth of stock, 10 years from now, it might be worth thousands of dollars because of the compounding of the dividend plus the capital appreciation on a normal basis. And so I tell people that's because the most important part of that formula is the n, the exponent, meaning number of times. And so the more occasions that you make an investment, the more you'll end up with in the future. That's why the sooner you start, regardless of the amount, the better. And then it's frequency. So you're better off technically investing $1 a day than $30 a month. Get it? So even though
I do, okay,
right, because every time you put that dollar in every day, that dollar now has an opportunity to appreciate, right, and create a return, which then that can appreciate and create a return, and so it's the mathematics of frequency that's the secret to future value. It's not really the amount. That's why the later you start, the less you'll end up with. And so the sooner you start and the more frequent you do it, even at very small amounts, you'll end up with way more. So
that's excellent advice. That's really, because I didn't know any of that. I almost feel like you're giving secret information that's going to get me killed or something because I'm disseminating it. But no, seriously. No. So the frequency is the key. And that's a very important point to make, because that is something that I did not know. And that's something that I'm going to implement into my own investment strategy. That's very, very good advice. Wow.
Yeah, you should think about every day. You should think about, did I make an investment in something? Like, did I put any money into something? Because now with technology, you can literally do that. And so it might be did it on purpose, or it might be from something that you have that's already set up that naturally reoccurs, like dividends coming in, interest coming in, that I automatically reinvest instead of take. Mm-hmm.
All right. And just as an update for you, when it comes to me, I checked my little Coin Flash app thing, and it's moving along. I never that's interesting how that's going. So I'm having fun with that. But on our first webcast, one of the links that you sent me was Buy the Block, or blockchain. It was something like that. I think it was Buy the Block. Mm-hmm. I was hoping you could talk a little bit more about that today, because I was checking out the website, and that's something I definitely want to get involved in.
Yeah, Buy the Block is an interesting concept where they're using real estate crowdfunding. So it's essentially an equity crowdfunding platform. An equity crowdfunding is part of the Jobs Act that Obama actually passed, that allows for individuals, regardless of it used to be, if you wanted to invest in venture capital, you had to be what's called an accredited investor, meaning you needed to have either net worth of $1 million or income of $200,000 a year in order to be financially qualified to participate in a venture capital fund, which is a private investment fund. So with the Jobs Act that President Obama enacted, it relaxed those rules. So really anybody can participate in venture capital equity, or just direct ownership in businesses. And so now what you have are what are called equity crowdfunding platforms, where you can, with just maybe $100, invest in a new company and receive stock in that company without being an accredited investor. Or if you want to raise capital for a business that you have, you can do so on these platforms, and then friends and family can do it. They don't have to be accredited. So that's all the background. So Buy the Block is a African-American owned equity crowdfunding platform specializing in real estate. And so what they're trying to do is, through group investment, buy the block. So instead of allowing gentrification to occur in our neighborhoods, we can go in and buy those properties, and you can actually submit a property to be bought on their website. Let's see that say you see a piece of property in your neighborhood that's it's up for sale, or it's being foreclosed, or it's sitting there empty, or what have you. And you're like, wow, for $50,000, we could purchase this property. you can list the property on their website, and then if enough people submit contribution, well, they're not contribution, this is ownership, right? If enough people subscribe to the offering, then you can buy the property. So you can participate in buying properties that people have identified in various African American communities, or you can, submit your own idea. So yeah, I like that. I like that idea of using and the new law to actually address gentrification through ownership, which is great.
I think it's excellent. I was looking at it a little bit last night before I went to sleep, and I was like, you know what, that's what I need to talk to you about, because I just feel that, especially as African Americans, we do need to have a lot more ownership in our communities. I feel like that is vital.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it's a way to diversify your own portfolio. Because if you're thinking, wow, how can I invest in some real estate? I can't afford to buy a house right now, or I really would love to have some rental property, but that's not realistically feasible for me. With a couple $100, okay, now I've got some real estate in my portfolio, and it's in my community. It might be in Milwaukee in the African American neighborhood there, but that's okay, or it might be in my own neighborhood.
Right. Oh, I'm excited to see and I guess report to you where I'm at the end of the year, because you really have opened so many, you brought in my perspective, and you've put a lot of things within reach for me. And I'm sure anyone who watches my webcast that I never would have dreamed were in my reach. So it's been very motivational.
You're going to have a real diversified portfolio. And in fact, next time we'll talk about how you can invest directly in U.S. Treasury bonds for free, without a broker, without a brokerage account, directly. We'll go through that.
All right. Well, next time also, I want to touch a little bit on how the adult entertainment industry, for some reason, has not been a very public industry as far as being publicly traded. I was researching that a little bit, and let's save that for next time. But I find that very interesting, considering the popularity and how the product, which is the adult content, that is something that is very widely distributed. It's something that I would say quite a few people worldwide purchase, but they're not publicly traded companies, with the exception of, I think in 2011, the Friend Finder network was, but then they quickly became private again too. So that's something that I want to talk to you about, because I think that there's something funny going on. But I'll just leave it at that for now.
That's a good subject to broach too. I'll do some research. There's something strange going on there, because the reason it came to my mind today has to do with how that industry is so intricately laced with politics, especially right now in the media. Right now, that industry is getting more free advertising than it's ever had before, strictly because of Donald Trump's liaisons. Right. So, I'm thinking, because I was looking at it, and I was thinking about the stocks and everything, and I'm like, well, since I know a lot about that industry, maybe I need to get some stock in there. And then I look it up, and I'm like, there isn't any. Right. Isn't that crazy? That's bizarre. It's very bizarre. Maybe somebody needs to start an equity crowdfunding platform specializing in the adult entertainment industry.
Well, I think so. And I think another thing that I'm going to start looking into doing is there's a little new webcast idea I have. And as soon as I get that up and running, I'm going to, figure out how people can, get stock in me, because if I'm going to be the only one talking about that particular subject, and I'm the only one who it has to do with that subject in the stock market, then, you know, I should become really valuable really quickly. So I don't know. I'll have to talk to you about that privately. That's what I'll do.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's the end of this webcast. Thank you everyone for watching. Make sure that you visit Steve Washington on Twitter on @wealthgapnet. Also, check out his website, www.bwnonline.com.